Yo, what's going on, man? This is your boy Super Mario, man. You are in the Yo with your boy, man. Today we're going to be going over a VCA style compressor that kind of models or mimic a VCA compressor, such as like a bus compressor from the famous SSL console, or something kind of like a DBX 160A, 160X, 160XT, and so forth and so on. Those are VCA compressors, and VCA compressors is mostly your common type of circuitry design that you will find in hardware compressors. It's a lot of VCA compressors out there, and they do a really good job. But this particular plugin is modeling the gluiness of compression or whatnot, but it does it in a modern way. Instead of doing single band compression, it does what they call split frequency compression, where it basically split the whole frequency spectrum of your sound source into two, and so you can focus on the low end frequencies and the high end frequencies or whatnot. So we're going to go over this particular compressor, and the compressor that we're talking about is from Plugin Alliance Brainworx Bx Glue and everything like that. So we're just going to go over this compressor and look at the key feature of this compressor and how you can utilize it in your productions, man. So let's go ahead and get into reason. Yes, we're going to get into reason and check out this compressor and see what it do. Let's go. All right, so here you see we have the compressor. It's on the main or the master track for as an insert. And you can see it right there below my little circle of camera and everything like that, man. This particular compressor is a modern look to your typical glue compressor or whatnot, but you have all your main controls there. You have your ratio, you have your threshold, and you have your attack and your release time. And on the release time, you have a auto button that'll automatically adjust the release time based on the activity that the signal is being present or whatnot. So you know what I'm saying, for us like catching the transients and the falling off and everything like that, it's just basically automatically adjusting the release time, you know what I'm saying, based on the signal. All right, cool deal. And it wouldn't be Brainworx if they didn't have tone features in their plugins or whatnot. So you have the classic XL saturation that you can add to the tone, also total harmonic distortion right here, and they added something new I haven't really seen on the Brainworx plugins, is a transformer switch, where you can switch different transformers to see if you can get, you know what I'm saying, different a different tone out of your sound source or whatnot. Of course, you have a mix knob so you can do parallel compression, and then you have some input leveling knobs right here for your input, output, and also headroom. What's really cool is that you have an automatic gain compensation for your output gain, and that's really good right there as well. You have some sidechain options that we always talk about here on my channel. I am a big user of sidechain filtering when you're using compression. That way you don't take away from your low end, but I mean, with what this compressor is doing, you may not have to use this all the time and everything like that. This new little feature down at the bottom is called emphasis, and this is basically just kind of like another shaping tool for the sound source, and it's basically kind of like a tilt EQ. You see what I'm saying? So we're not going to talk about that too much. So you know what I'm saying, that'll be on your own time unless I feel like they need to make a video on that, but I don't think that's a really big key feature of this plugin. And last but not least, a Brainworx plugin will always have that mono maker for as taking the low signal source and having a crossover point and the width. So I mean, everything that you have in this compressor, I mean, it's a one-stop shop, man, for us what you could do here, and definitely cut down the number of plugins that you can add on your master track in order to get that sound. But what we're going to talk about is the crossover point that you see here. So this little white line that you see here, the band link. Okay, the band link is very important. You see what I'm saying? And the band tilt is important as well. All right, we're going to go ahead and stop the music, and we're going to talk about a couple of things in here. Okay. So what we got going on is you know what I'm saying, the crossover point here, and I'm gonna circle that so you guys can see what the crossover point. So the crossover point is this little situation right here. That's where you can make the adjustment. And how you make an adjustment is this little situation right there. All right. That is the crossover point for us splitting the signal, and you have a basically a frequency spectrum right here in this graph right there. All right, so within this graph you're going to be able to see what you're going to be splitting, and then there's a little button right here which is like a headphone button, and you can zone in to what the frequency is doing. So as it's moving left to right, you'll be able to hear, okay, I'm hearing the crossover point for us, the you know, saying what's ducking or whatnot, or what I'm affecting. Okay, and that'll make sense once we start moving it. All right, so I just kind of wanted to annotate those right there. All right, cool deal. Let's go back and get my mouse point here. All right, so that's what these two are going to be doing. And then the band tilt is very, very interesting, and we'll talk about that. So when you're doing the band tilt, let's say I tilted to a negative value on the dB, what it's doing is basically kind of giving you some inverse gain compensation, if that makes any sense. So if you can look real closely here, you will see that the tilt is plus 1 dB and the high end is a negative 1 dB. You see what I'm saying? Or whatnot. So what it's basically doing is when you tilt it a negative or positive value, the opposite is going to compensate for the opposite. So if that make any sense, man, what that's going to do is basically if you go negative on the band tilt, that's going to lower the high frequencies and raise up the lower frequencies far as gain is concerned. That way, you know what I'm saying, if you're compressing let's say a little bit more on the higher frequencies for whatever reason, when you adjust your threshold, you can make up the gain on the lower end. Okay, so it's all about what the gain reduction is doing and how it's behaving to your signal. All right, so we're going to run through a little example real quick so you can get a real world feel for what that is doing. So I'm gonna set this back to default on 0. All right, there we go. And what I'm gonna do is make this situation a single band compressor so you can kind of understand once you take your band link, you know what I'm saying, you start making some adjustments, it'll make sense for you. All right. So by default, it comes at 25%. All right. So, you know, by default at 25%. So you can kind of get a little bit of that, you know what I'm saying, compression on both ends, or whatnot. All right. So let's go ahead and hit play and see what we got. All right, so you can hear the sound going and you can see your frequency spectrum here. And just based on the frequency spectrum, we got a lot of energy on the low end. Okay, now let's say, for instance, you got it on 2-to-1 ratio or even 4-to-1 ratio, and we're gonna bump it up to 4-to-1 ratio so you can start seeing the behavior on the gain reduction. All right, now you're seeing this behavior on the gain reduction, and we're getting right now a little bit around about -1 dB on the gain reduction. Now when we pull that threshold back, you're gonna start seeing a lot of information start being reduced, and that's by way of the ratio. So the higher the ratio, the more activity you're gonna get on compression. The lower ratio, the less behavior you're going to have on your reduction, by way of how you adjust that threshold. You feel what I'm saying? So let's go ahead and let's dial it back on the threshold. All right, I like it right there at 1.9 on the threshold. We got a little bit of glue going on. It's a little bit too excessive, you know what I'm saying? But let's check it out between 4-to-1 and 2-to-1 ratio. right, cool deal. We're gonna stop it right there. So that's kind of like how I like it at 2 to 1, and on the threshold, I got a little bit aggressive on the threshold at 2 to 1, so we don't have too much compression, and we're taking away from the lower end, and we have kind of like a imbalance of high and low end when it comes to volume, and also saying dynamics as well, man. All right, so we had a good stopping point right now. The attack is not all the way slow. We got it kind of like at a medium slow attack, and kind of like a medium release. So let me make that adjustment here real quick. All right, I like it right there. All right, cool, man. So we're just attack and release time. We're gonna keep everything down here below this little imaginary line that they got in the graphic. We're not even gonna touch. We're not even gonna focus that on the video. Okay. So our crossover point, let's go ahead and try to find our crossover point. So right now we have a single band compression, you know what I'm saying? So it's compressing from 20 hertz all the way down to 20,000 hertz. You understand what I'm saying? So once we start bringing that band length down, what it's going to do is now take the whole frequency spectrum, and what you're doing is just basically splitting it into two. All right, let's give it a try. All right, so you can see here that you have it at 0. All right, it's a true left and it's a true right, or should I say true low and true high. Now as you start bringing it up, I think what happens, and it kind of really doesn't define it in the manual, but in my opinion, what I think happens is as you go up in the percentage, and as soon as you get to 100%, it gets to single band. But when you start bringing it down, it's kind of like you still got single band, but it's not all the way 100% lower frequency and 100% higher frequency. You see what I'm saying? So as you adjust down, you know what I'm saying, to 0, you'll have a true split between the low and the high. I really think it's based on the crossover points. So it's kind of like right here, but then, you know what I'm saying, you get a blend. You know how it kind of go in the crossfades. So I think that's what the band link is. It's kind of like straight arrow, but then you got a crossfade. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what that means right there with the link and everything like that. But it really wasn't defined 100% exactly. It define what it does, but it doesn't define like why it's a percentage. So I'm thinking it's a little bit more bleed than anything. But your crossover point, so I'm gonna keep it at 0, but your crossover point is the important thing. All right, so we can adjust your crossover point here by hovering your mouse and moving that white line, or right here by way of, nudging it a little bit with the arrows and everything like that. So let's go ahead and try to find our low end first. All right, and I'm gonna find the low end by way of just enabling this little headphone icon here, which is kind of like a listen button to see where the crossover at. All right, so you can see here I have it at the highest point of the crossover, which is at 2000, and I'm gonna bring it down to adjust and to find that low end. So right there at 152 hertz, I like how that sounds. It's all low end. All right, and as you can see right now, once we made that adjustment at 152 hertz, you can see now that the low end is doing more the compression, and the higher end is not doing that much compression. You're getting a little bit at about negative 0.1 on the compression, negative 0.2 on the compression or whatnot, but it's really that low end. You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of like working like you would with a sidechain filter, but you're actually doing it live in action. But the difference is, instead of focusing only on the gain reduction, is focusing on both ends. Now watch what happens once I increase, or should I say start dialing in more threshold. Watch the gain reduction meters, and it does a real good job of giving you gain reduction on the frequency spectrum per, you know what I'm saying, low and high frequencies. Watch when I dial this out. You'll notice that I'm gluing both the low and the high ends as well. All right, now what I'm gonna do is try to get some type of gain compensation here. All right, cool. So I think we made up the gain right there. So if you're kind of paying attention, you can see that we got a little bit of gain reduction on the higher end. So all those frequencies that are above 152 hertz, you got compression going on, but it's not you know what I'm saying, being affected by way of what the low end is doing. So in single band compression, you got to think about it like this: the compression is reacting to the most dynamic part of the sound source. You see what I'm saying? So if you're compressing that particular sound source and you got a lot of low end, what it's going to do is it's going to reduce by way of what the low end is doing. Therefore, it may be some artifacts or some things in the higher frequencies that you don't want to have compressed too much. You see what I'm saying? And that's why you have this crossover point, and that's the standout feature for the Bx_Glue or the Bx Glue plugin or whatnot. So let's play that one more time, and we're gonna do a I guess adjust the threshold accordingly to see what's going on. All right. All right, so once you got, you know what I'm saying, made your adjustment, now you can do the beautiful thing of utilizing parallel compression. So it's always, you will always know with like some plugins what parameters are most important with what the process is doing with the plugin. So you see these big knobs in the compression, right? Well, you got another big knob right here in the center, and that's the mix knob. Okay, and the mix knob is basically, it's going to marry both the compression coming from the low end and the high end. So as we dial back the mix knob, you'll get a perfect blend of things that are compressed and things that are not compressed by way of parallel compression. That way you don't have a too compressed sound. So let's dial back on the mix knob just a little bit. All right, so right there at about like 73-75%, I like it or whatnot. And you got some in and out meters, so we can just basically look at the meters and we know we kind of pushing a little bit on the output knob, which is okay. You can dial it back if need be. I'm gonna dial it back maybe like 0.6. All right, cool. Just keep it equal, and you can see right there on the out input we have 0.4 and on the output, at one point it was at 0.5. So it's kind of equal, or whatever the case may be. So, you know what I'm saying, at 75%, we know what we're doing. But check this out, you can take it even further. You know what I'm saying, if you want to isolate the compression even more, let's say for instance, I don't know, that low end is still compressed a little bit. Let me show you how you can compensate for that. We're going to focus right down here on the side chain filter. So let me annotate that for you. Now you have a listen button right here on the side chain filter. All right. This listen button right here is going to allow you to zone in only on the low frequencies to see what you will be filtering out. Now, when we do the filtering out on the low frequency, on the side chain filter, excuse me, what that's going to do is basically tell the compressor anything where the frequency selector is on the side chain filter. Okay, we ain't compressing. You see what I'm saying? So again, the high pass filter selector knob, okay, wherever we stop that at, it ain't gonna compress that. You see what I'm saying? So even though everything below 152 hertz is being compressed, let's just say at 40 hertz on the side chain filter, I don't want none of that compressed. Give me them sub frequencies. That's what it's going to do, and you're still going to have compression between 40 hertz and 152 hertz. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Let's go ahead and test it out real quick. All right, cool. So basically what I did was stopped it at about 108. I noticed that the low end started kind of, you know what I'm saying, disappearing at about 108 hertz. So now that I have that side chain filter engaged, basically what it's doing is that anything below 108 hertz is not being compressed at all. You know what I'm saying? It's basically kind of filtered out of the compression circuit, and everything above 108 and right at the point at 152 hertz is being compressed. Now you're not going to see that information up here at the top. It's just something that you're going to have to utilize your ears for. Okay, and then you want to take it a step further and say, hey, okay, now I want all of my bass or my low frequencies to be mono. You can go here to the stereo knob and you can adjust that, give or take, at around about 155. All right, so I'm gonna put mine on 155. All right, cool deal. So now I have a perfect setup to have the low end controlled far as dynamics is concerned. We have split the signal into two. We have the right amount of compression going on. We also took it a step further and utilized a side chain filter in order to not have compressors based on that side chain filter crossover point. And we also utilized the mono maker knob, which basically is another frequency knob that says, hey, wherever my stopping point is, everything below my frequency stopping point is going to be mono, and everything above you can stay stereo. You see what I'm saying? So now let's play that sound one more time. All right, let's go ahead and bypass the plugin. We're gonna go ahead and turn it off. And turn it back on. You hear the difference? Like the sound is kind of like not balanced. It's not front forward. It's not balanced. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like it sounds different than what you do with the compressor. So let's go ahead and turn it back on. So it sounds a little bit more defined. Now this is ain't this this music in the background is something that I just put together for the video or whatnot, but you can kind of tell the difference between the uncompressed signal versus the compressed signal. The compressed signal has the low frequencies a little bit more under control, and it also pushes the whole mix forward, so you can have a better listening experience. The other one, you're listening to it, but there's no life to it, there's no frontward presence to it, and the low end is definitely dominating the dynamics in the mix or whatnot. So hopefully this video have you to understand what this plugin does, the Bx Glue from Brainworx by way of plugin alliance. You're not just getting single band compression, but you're also getting dual band compression, or basically splitting the frequencies from low to high to have more control over your compression if you need to control one or the other and stuff like that. So oh, there's one more thing we need to go over before we get up out of here. Let's talk about the band tilt. Okay, so the band tilt is basically going to compensate. So let's listen to this again. All right, and we're basically going to say, okay, look, I got more compression on the low end, but I can't really hear it. I want to turn that low end up. All right, it feels like I hear a little bit more highs. Let's do that real quick. All right, cool deal. So what I did was I made a small adjustment, and I hope you heard that small adjustment is that at -5 dB on the band tilt, what it happened was that we turned down the high end at -0.5 dB, and we turned up the low end a half a dB. So basically what's being compressed on the low end is being turned up by way of making up that gain, and what's on the high end that's not being compressed too much, well, we're going to turn you out. So basically it's a balancing act for as gain compensation and also dynamic control. All right, let's get a little bit extreme with it so you can actually hear what's going on. Now that's a little bit extreme right there, but you'll hear more 5 dB of the low end, everything under 150 hertz, you know what I'm saying, being turned up, and everything above 150 hertz being turned down. You see what I'm saying? So now what we're gonna do is bring it up, and we're gonna bring up the high end, and you're gonna notice that once we do the reverse, I had to put my sidechain filter in for my voice. But once we do the reverse, what we're going to do is now go plus 5 dB, and now the high end is going to be more loud, and the low end is going to be, you know what I'm saying, less loud. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the reverse. All right, so there it is right there. So it's at plus 5.5 dB, and now you can hear more of that high end, and it's almost like we turned down the low end. You see what I'm saying? All right, cool deal. So we basically I made some adjustments, just really kind of listening to it real quick. And what I did was, because the low end is still going strong, even though we got the right amount of glue and compression on the low end, we kind of turned down that low end just a little bit. So I reduced it at about -0.3 dB and have the high end up just a little bit. Now I am on headphones, and I've been doing this video for about 20 minutes now, but just basically, you know what I'm saying, wanted you guys to hear what the tilt is doing. So this compressor is doing a lot of different things in one box. You're basically getting dual band gain compensation and also dynamics all in one box in one section, and then you're coming down and doing some tone adjustments, level adjustments, sidechain filtering, and also controlling the mono and stereo relationship as well, man. So I mean, for a plugin like this, is a really good tool that you can use on any sound source that you need to use it on, but primarily you probably use it on mixed buses and also master tracks as well. But hey, if you do have some drum parts that you would like to utilize it on, or let's say for instance you have let's say an orchestral sound source and you have cellos, violins, trumpets, and tubas and stuff like that, this plugin could definitely control the dynamics between those as well to bring out certain parts and to, you know, saying compensate the dynamics on the lower parts as well, as far as frequency is concerned. So there you have it, people. That is it. That is the BX Glue, man. Hey man, you've been in the Yo with your boy Super Mario, man, checking out the BX Glue from Brainworx by way of Plugin Alliance, man. If you like this video, go ahead and hit a like and also subscribe to this YouTube channel as well, man. And as always, man, stay creative, man. This has been your boy Super Mario, man. We're signing out. Peace.